inviting you to their board? Are they inviting you because you're good at marketing, or are they inviting you because you can help them scale? What's the super skill that they're trying to attract to the board?
Yeah, so I've got that unicorn element. I know sales, I know marketing, but operations is really where I shine. And it's being able to find out where something is at point A and know point B is the goal, and then how to basically develop a plan to get there, how to create the processes, procedures. One of my super strengths is building dream teams of A players to get the job done and not sacrificing on who to hire. Hiring and leadership is a whole huge thing. And we could do a call on that alone, but bringing in the right people and understanding that people are everything to your business. And Richard Branson, I love, he said this, you train people so well that they can leave you, but you treat them so well that they never will. And it should be part of your DNA, right? I hate the fact that these companies like, oh, we're going to throw an end of the year Christmas party and then it's all good. And we got these posters on the wall. Well, that's bullcrap, man. Like your culture and your core values and your purpose and your mission statement should be part of your daily routine. Like you should live those every single day. And when you have A players and you build a high performing team that focuses on winning and you create a culture around it with core values and a purpose and you remind them of it every day and you live it every day, dude, get out of our way.
So, A player, right?
That's
Most
it. Not
people
a B player, not a B plus player, an A player.
all right. What's an A player? Because most people think that they're better than average. So you talk to everybody, nobody says I'm below average. Everybody thinks
Yep.
they're better than average, which makes them C, maybe a B. But there's a whole lot of people who think they're A. So what's the difference as a founder if I'm trying to determine whether I'm hiring an A or a B? And then we want to get to the sacrificing because you slipped that in on not sacrificing on hiring talent.
That's it. If you think it's expensive to hire a professional, wait till you hire an amateur. And an A player, man, there's so many, there's intrinsic qualities in an individual, right? Jerome, you are the man that you are going to be pretty much for this life. You're probably going to grow, you're going to develop. For the most part, you are who you are today. I can teach you new skills, but I can't teach you how to be Jerome. You know what I mean? And so when I'm looking for an A player, I'm looking for those intrinsic qualities of who are they as a person, right? Do they work from the top down or do they work from the bottom up? And what do I mean by that? Are they somebody who can come in to have nothing going on and they're going to go find something to do? They're going to be proactive and they're going to go look at these different things. Or they're going to need to work from the top down where they need a checklist of things where they have to do. And when that checklist is out and they get to the bottom, they sit there and they wait to be told what to do again. Right. So I'm looking for somebody who's going to take initiative. Right. And if even if they work from the bottom, top down, that's fine, but they don't twiddle their thumbs. They go, okay, what can I do to be better? Right. Hey, I found extra time. Let me go tear this apart. Let me go do this. I want people that are going to challenge the status quo. I want people that are going to get 1% better every day. I want by the time you leave me, if you ever leave me, to be so much better than the person that you were than when I met you. And I just want to have a small piece to play in that. But they have to have the desire to want to be better. They have to have the desire to want to achieve more in their life. They want to have the desire to grow, not only professionally, but personally. Right. And we have a mantra of 1% better every day. Right. Every day we show up and we talk about it. Be just 1% better tomorrow than you were today. Right. And it's talk about it and it's living those core values.
Man, I think Ed Mylett had something to do with that 1% better stuff. So you talked about qualities. I think values probably enters into the conversation as well when you're talking about A players. Can we dig into
Oh,
that
yeah.
a little bit?
Yeah, ethics and morals, right? I want to enjoy what I do. And so it really starts, the individual has to fit within what you have, right? And so you got to take a step back as how do you identify A players? Well, there may be players out there who are B players somewhere else, but maybe A players for you because they can get behind your mission and purpose of what you're doing. So it's really important for any organization to start off the bat with really defining why we exist, right? What problems are we here to solve? What is our purpose in this marketplace? And I like to say purpose just personally because a mission is something that can be accomplished. A purpose is something that continues on forever. So I don't say mission statement. I was like, what is our purpose? What is our reason for getting out of bed every day? Having a clear understanding of what that is, how it changes lives, and how you as an A player on my team can fit into that. Right. So I think it starts there. It starts from the top down. And then it goes into the core values of really defining the core values of the organization. Because if you can't see yourself representing those core values or getting behind the purpose, you're never going to be an A player, right? I don't care how skilled you are. To be an A player, you have to be on board with the organization. You have to get behind the message. You have to get behind the purpose, and you have to live the core values. One of my companies, and I think we'll probably talk more about this later, but Reputation Rhino, actually, it's funny. We went really crazy into the culture on that one. And we call ourselves a crash. A crash is the group identification name, like a flock is for birds. So a crash is a group of rhinos, and we call each other rhinos and things like that. But for example, our four pillars of core values are take initiative, value teamwork, be passionate, and relentlessly wow the client. Now we have subcategories under that, like challenge the status quo, or to be better 1% every day, keep trying, keep feeling, keep forward, celebrate successes, own failures, and learn from both, be collaborative and open-minded, fast is better than slow, all sorts of stuff. Never settle for mediocrity. Do the right thing. So character, you mentioned this earlier, do the right thing even when nobody's looking. Like that to me is the definition of character. Do the right thing even when nobody's looking. And then focus on the right solution to the problem. So I want somebody who's solution oriented, not just going to tell me what the problem is. I want somebody, we actually have this acronym called PIES, right? And it breaks it down in a way of problems, and then what's down to the what's the solution. So don't just tell me there's a problem. Tell me what's the problem? Why is it a problem? What have you done to solve the problem? And what is your solution to solving the problem? Right? Come to me with those four things and we'll have a conversation. You don't come to me with those four things, I'm going to send you back on your own until you come back to me with those things. So at the end of the day, I've talked a lot about core values and culture. Culture comes down to one thing. It's what you tolerate. It's not about bringing your dog to work. It's not about serving M&Ms in the break room. Culture is what you tolerate.
Ooh, there's so much there. So I think I'll come back to that because I think that's a great segue into Reputation Rhino because I think companies have values and many founders in the marketplace are trying to use that reputation, those values to create an experience for the people or the companies that they're serving. Well, let's explain what Reputation Rhino does first, and then we talk about that purpose and why you guys are on that doing that purpose.
Yeah. So Reputation Rhino is an online reputation management firm. So we've been around for 15 years. And in that time, we've helped thousands of individuals and businesses show up better online. And I think you asked why I got into it. And one of the things that I do is M&A and acquiring existing cash flowing businesses. And so when I look at businesses to buy, I'm looking at something that is not only performing now, but what's that business opportunity going to look like in 3, 5, 7 years from now? And can I scale it? Is it growable? Because I don't want to necessarily just buy something and just maintain it. I want to buy it, grow it, scale it, either keep it or exit. But I want to exit it something that it's an exponential greater value than what I bought it at. Okay. That's the point. I buy it at 1 million. I grow it to 10 million in revenue. I sell it for 30. Right. And so when I was looking a little over 3 years ago, 3.5 years ago, I came across Reputation Rhino. And some of the things that were really attractive to me is Amazon has forever changed us. We live in an instant gratification society and we want everything right now. We want it to our doorstep right now without having to do anything else besides click a button. And the other thing is we live in a freaking society of influencers, right? More people hold their phone like this than they do like this anymore. And so when COVID hit, the amount of eyeballs that went online because we were trapped, we got in and more people went online. We could never pull that back. So you started to see incremental increases in social media and people going online and shopping experience. When COVID hit, man, it was like a hockey stick growth of how many people started going online. And now you look at the numbers, something like 87% of people start their buying journey online. So 87% of people start their journey online to discover the company they want to or work with for a solution they're trying to find, or an individual that they just met or they're researching. Right. So we know that that's the reason. And in doing some research, what I found was 74% of those people, there were some studies done. 74% of people already made up their buying decision of who they were going to go with based on what they didn't find about people online. And to me, I was like, holy moly. I was an entrepreneur that didn't know much about reputation management and the benefits of it. And then when I actually started to explore it, I was like, we have to get into this space because this is such a need. And I think, unfortunately, a lot of business owners, a lot of entrepreneurs and businesses don't realize the value behind reputation management and the true need for it. So that's what kind of attracted me to it and why we got into it.
All right. And so helping founders protect the brand of the company. How can you do that? Like, what does the crash of rhinos, what are they doing out there?
Yeah, great question. So people generally can come to us within one of three buckets: build, protect, or repair, right? So maybe you have nothing. If you go to Google and you type your name in and there's no real narrative behind it, maybe your social profiles pop up, some other people with the same name pop up, you're what we call a ghost, right? So we need to build you a positive online profile. With any of our three categories, we're looking to do three things. We're trying to make you more visible, right? Because we want more eyeballs on you. We're trying to make you more authoritative and trustworthy, right? And so those are the three elements that people will start to, I like to say, when you earn the right to somebody's attention is when you become influential. And I need to take a step back and really define the difference between marketing and branding, because that really is going to set the tone of this conversation. Marketing is what you say about yourself. Branding is what somebody says about you after you've left the room. So, Jerome, if you and I walk into a room together and you go, "Hey, I'm Jerome and I'm awesome," that's marketing. Marketing is your website. Those are your social media channels. Those are things that you can control, your paid ads. Let's be honest, you're not going to say something bad about yourself or even controversial about yourself on your marketing platforms. Consumers have figured that out. So marketing is less effective today than it was 5 years or even 10 years ago. Branding is what somebody else says about you. So if you and I walk into that same room and I'm like, "This is Jerome. He's fucking awesome. This is my guy. You got to meet him." That's branding. It holds to see you look at that smile on your face.
Yeah.
You didn't get that when you said it about yourself, but when somebody else said it about you, you got a big smile on your face. That's branding. And so that's why we've seen a 617% increase in reviews being left online in the last 3 years, because we trust an online review just as much as we do a recommendation from a friend or a family member.
So word of mouth, it's funny, it's just moved online. Is that the game?
So being the Midwest boy I talked to you about, I grew up that you look somebody in their eyes, you shook them in their hands, right? I am here to tell you that the handshake has been replaced by the Google search. Your first impression is what somebody is seeing about you online. And as I said, 87% of people, 84% of people are starting their buying journey online, and three quarters, 72% are making that buying decision based on what they did or didn't find you about you online. And so the first impression is made almost instantly. You've heard this talk within a couple seconds. When you meet somebody, you already have a first impression made. That happens online too. And if what their first impression of you that they had online doesn't meet who you actually are because you're not controlling the online narrative, it's really hard to change that. There was a Cornell University study done recently, and they brought two focus groups in, Group A and Group B. Group A, they asked to make certain faces like smile, scowl, be angry, right? And they took a picture of them. Group B, they said, "We're going to show you a picture for 1 second, flash on, flash off. And we want you to tell us what kind of person you think this is and how they made you feel." And so the people that smiled, like, "Oh, good things about him. This is a good dude. I want to hang out with him." People that were scowling and angry, like, "Oh, I don't trust him. I don't like this person." 1 second, they saw their picture for 1 second. 6 months later, they brought the focus groups back together and did a mixer event. And they said to focus group B, "Hey, go meet these people out there and then come back after an hour and tell us what you think." They never told them it was group A or that it was the people from the pictures in the first study. And when they came back, they got their feedback on these people that they met. Their first impression was almost the same as what it was when they met these people and actually interacted with them 6 months later. And that was based on a 1 second picture that they saw of them and never knew who they were. So we make our first impressions really quickly, and it's really hard to change them because you got to understand we're negative by nature. Sure, we're driving down a street and we count how many red lights we get stuck at. We don't count how many green lights we got to go through. They're actually called traffic lights, but you know what we call them?
Red lights, stoplights.
Stoplights, red lights, right? We focus on the negative. We associate the negative in everything and anything that we do, and we're always looking to tear somebody down. So the reason your personal brand or your business brand is so crucial that you make the right first online impression is because they're going to make that impression to decide if they want to work with you or become a lead. In the world of business, we always heard speed to lead, speed to lead, speed to lead. Three quarters of your ability to even generate leads are based on what people are finding about you online. Let's say your marketing channels are awesome. You got a really good marketing team. Your paid marketing is on point. You're running ads, you're doing PPC, all that stuff. And people see it and they click on the ad. What they're going to do is come back because they're in their bathroom break. Let's be honest. They're sitting there scrolling on Facebook and they're on their bathroom break and they got to go back to work. And then they come back later and they Google that company. If the brand of that company doesn't match the marketing that they saw, there's a disconnect and there's a, I don't like it. So How do we control that? This is a long story to get to your question. How do we control an online reputation? I want everybody to envision New York. Like everybody's seeing New York and picture a city block in New York. You got this city block, you've got all these tall skyscrapers. Now I want you to flip that on its side, and that's your page one of Google. Each one of those results is a building. So a lot of the questions I get from entrepreneurs, oh, we have our own website and we run SEO to it. We do blogs and content. That's fantastic. All you're doing is making your one building tall. Reputation management is helping you take up tenancy or residence in every building on that city block. We want you to own the entire city block that makes you more visible, more authoritative, and more influential. Because when you become influential, you earn the right to their attention.
Wow. So this is about breadth, not depth. If I adjust the analogy just a little bit, this is fascinating because I think more people just want to be seen from further away. But you're saying that's not the answer. It's not the whole answer. There's a need to take up more real estate, literally more real estate on a horizontal basis instead of just vertical. When I think about brand, and we just had a personal brand person come on, Alan McLaren. That was a good episode in case you guys want to go back and check that one out. He talked about the need for you to build a brand because if you just leave it to be done, you might not like what you get. And I've heard you say you have a brand whether you curate it or like it or not. And so can we dig into that a little bit on why that's true? Because there's a lot of people who think, oh yeah, well, I don't have anything. I don't have a brand.
Everybody has a brand. And there's two types of brands. And I want to make sure that I explain this the right way. There's a personal brand, right? Dave Fulk is a brand. There's also a business brand. So we talked about one of my companies, Reputation Rhino. Reputation Rhino has its own brand. There's different needs for a personal brand than there is a business brand. A business brand is more than a logo, right? It's an experience. It's how did they make you feel? Do you know, like, and trust? So I say the know, like, and trust, right? So one of the things people always associate a personal brand with is trust, right? Oh, do I trust this person? And I just pull my hair out when I hear salespeople or business owners like, oh, they just need to know, like, and trust my sales guy. Jerome, I'm going to ask you a question. Let's just say you're a family man. You got 5 kids and a wife, right? There is 7 of you in your family and you go shopping for a new car and you just absolutely love the sales guy. He's absolutely amazing. You couldn't have asked for a better salesperson ever. And he's trying to sell you a 2-door sports car when you came for a minivan. Are you going to buy that sports car?
No.
No, no. There's 3 elements and most businesses screw up on 2 of them or forget the other 2. You have to know, like, and trust the salesperson. Yes. You also have to know, like, and trust the business, and you have to know, like, and trust the product or service. If you don't know, like, and trust all 3 of those things, they're not going to buy from you. And there's 2 questions that are going through their head, whether they're asking them out loud to you or not. And it's, does it or they help me? And can it or they work? And so when people are going online about you and they're searching your company, the salesperson will come later. But what kind of trust are you building in your brand? And what kind of trust are you building in your product before they ever get on the phone with a salesperson? Because then it's a sales guy's job to make them know, like, and trust him. But if you're not setting your salespeople up in a way for them to win the business and the product conversation before they ever get on the phone with them, you're setting your sales team up for failure.
This is so fascinating because I think most people think that and maybe it's true, but most people think that the first interaction that somebody has with their brand is when somebody reaches out to tell them about it. In a world of direct message selling or paid ad selling, it's, hey, we put this out here and they're not going to know anything about us except for what we present to them. It seems like you disagree with that. And the experience is more in depth and probably a little more complicated or nuanced than what may be simplified out in the marketplace.
I'll keep this simple and something that probably relates to everybody. Have you ever eaten at a restaurant that somebody recommended to you?
Absolutely.
Did you look it up online or pull it up on Yelp before you went?
So I think the short answer is yes, but I'm not a review.
Then
It's
you're
fun.
part of the 16% of the people that aren't.
Yeah. All right. So I'm the weirdo. And like, it's funny because I judge people based on their recommendations, right? Like, if you give me a bad recommendation, if you give me a bad introduction, if you give me a bad referral, that's part of the way that I think about you. I don't go independently verify. I
Perfect.
trust people that much.
People trust online reviews as much as they trust recommendations from a friend or a family member. So if a friend gave you a recommendation and it sucks, you now just said you judge that person because they gave you a recommendation to somewhere that they don't even control. They give you a recommendation to a restaurant that you had a bad experience about. Now you distrust them. What do you think clients of your organization think when they read a bad review online or a bad press article or a bad video that's, you know, and so that's why your first impression is paramount because you can't make a second first impression. Sometimes your first impression is going to be intent based. Somebody goes to Google because they're looking for reputation management services and what shows up for Reputation Rhino, that's their first impression. Other people's first impression are going to be exactly what you mentioned, direct marketing. In direct marketing, maybe their first impression is good, but 84% of those people are going to go back online and explore your brand. They're going to go to Google and type you in. Does your brand on that second impression match their first impression? And if they don't, if there's a disconnect, they're moving on.
So confirmation, they're looking for confirmation for the first
We are
impression.
negative. We're negative by nature. This goes back to the stoplight. We're looking for a reason to mistrust you. We don't believe the advertising that we just saw. Lose 50 pounds in 50 days. Oh, great. Yeah. Now we're going to go Google reviews of that company. Now we're going to, I don't believe it. Right. We have this confirmation bias, this negative association that's hardwired into us. And I use the stoplight as an analogy, but go back to the home phone days. Don't answer it as a salesperson, right? Why? Why is everything got to be negative? But we have that. We're looking to have that confirmation bias. And if we find that negative review, oh, I knew it. These guys suck, right? That's what we're looking for. But if we can't, and we go online and find nothing but good article, good website, good microsite, good press release, good this, and it's authoritative, guess what they're also doing? If you think that people aren't shopping your competition, you're crazy. But if you set the bar here with your brand and you shop your competitor and they're here, that only secures their decision to want to work with you that much more.
This is fascinating. I'm thinking about a few weeks ago, my daughter, she plays clarinet, and we bought her a clarinet off of Amazon because I was like, this is ridiculous. The rental is 3 times what this Amazon one is. And she got the Amazon one. She takes it to class and she says, Daddy, this sounds like a kazoo. And I was like, okay. So then I did go read the reviews, Dave. I read the reviews and I said, oh, well, this has got 50 million, 50-star, 5-star reviews. Let's just buy another one. Maybe we just got a bad one. She gets the second one. She's like, Daddy, this is awful. I don't want this. And so then we go to the store and one of these music and art stores and we buy that clarinet. And she tries it out and she's like, oh, this is amazing. And it had a synthetic reed and all this other stuff. And that cost twice as much as the rental cost. And so now I'm like, what in the world just happened here? I went from thinking I was going to pay $150 for a clarinet to paying over $1,000 for a clarinet when I could have rented one for $600. And it's like, well, or $300. I think it was $300. And so like we moved through this continuum of trust, but the reviews were enough to make me believe that the thing that was a tenth of the price was comparable with the thing that was full price or 100% of the price. And what you're saying is if you're not in the game of confirmation, if you're not spending time working on the brand and solidifying the brand and expanding the brand so that when people talk about you, they're saying the things that you want them to say, you can put yourself out of a cell, get yourself out of the running and not even know that it's happening.
So you mentioned earlier, I think one of your first questions was how can a brand affect a company's ability to exit? Up to 20% of your valuation can be based on your company's reputation. In 2024 alone, corporate valuations accounted for approximately $11.9 trillion of the S&P 500 firms. Reputation alone accounted for almost $12 trillion on the S&P 500 firms. You want to know why a lot of people don't know? Because the Fortune 500, the S&P 500 firms, they've got reputation management departments. It's part of their budget. They're just spending on this. Like everybody's like, oh, PR. Well, the need is no longer for those Fortune 500 companies. The need is for every business, the local mom and pop coffee shop, to have an online reputation that's strong, reviews included. And so up to 20% of your company's valuation can be based on that alone. You're going to be able to attract more buyers. Like I said, 92% of people, you're part of the 8% that don't. 92% of people consume online reviews and 88% of them trust them as much as a friend or a family member.
That is
Brand
wild.
authority, 63% of consumers trust online search engines. So if you have 92% people searching online and 63% of them trust it, that's what I said, 3/4 of the people searching for your service are going to trust what they find on Google. And there's other search engines out there. Google's still the monster, right? It results for 8 billion, 80 billion searches a day or something insane.
So you threw in PR, which is different than reputation management. It's probably a part of reputation management. But as we start to land the plane, maybe we can talk about the difference because some folks out there may be saying, "Oh, well, I got PR or I got people writing articles for me or pick the thing.
Yep.
I got somebody running my social media account." What's the difference between reputation management and PR?
We're going to go back to my New York City building, right? We're going to go back to your website building there that you take up one building on the city block. PR is like somebody running to the rooftop with a megaphone and screaming something out and then going back down to their desk. PR is great to make an announcement and tell the world this thing, and then it just fizzles out, right? So PR used in a strategy is great, especially for bigger businesses that have a lot of announcements to make, new key hire, new acquisition, new this. But the vast majority of businesses are small to medium businesses. They don't have the need for PR the way that large companies do. And so PR is that guy that runs to the top of your building and screams from the rooftops and goes back to his desk in between each press release, PR press release. Reputation management is taking up tenancy and having you own every building on that block. So you've got your website here. Then you've got a published article in a high authoritative publication here. Then you've got a microsite that maybe talks about a specific element of your product. And so Google loves websites, right? So we found that websites rank really highly and people are like, oh, well, I've got all that on my website. You go to their website and it's just like, oh my God. So the analogy that I give people for marketing on a website is you think of this long hallway. The goal of everybody that goes to your website, they have one goal in mind. Everybody that comes to your website has one goal in mind, right? They don't have 20 goals in mind. They have one goal in mind. And you got to think their goal is to get to one end of that hallway to the other end of that hallway. And every tab and everything and every pop-up that you have is like exit doors along that hallway that says, go here, go here, go here. And you get them distracted and you get them off. And they may not end up at their destination because they can't find what they were actually there looking for. And so with microsites, some of the things that we do are, hey, if you want to talk about your charity, what are your customers looking for? So one of our clients, and I won't mention their name because they're out of privacy, but they're a $4 billion a year organization and they make a lot of household products. One of the number one questions that people would ask were, what is in the products? How are the ingredients sustained? And so we built a microsite that talked about nothing but the ingredients within the product, how they were eco-friendly, how they were sustainable, how they sourced their ingredients and stuff like that. And the whole site covered that. All those people went to that traffic to that website because like I said earlier, Amazon ruined us. We want instant gratification. We want to order something, have it delivered to our house within a couple hours. People online are searching the same thing. They don't want to have to search through all this stuff. They want it simple. And so by microsites, we keep it simple. We give them the information. It ties back to the main website and stuff like that. But we want to give people the ability to make their search easy. And so again, reputation management is keeping the brand voice aware, how you want to show up to the world, how you want to be seen by the world, how you want to be trustworthy, how you want to be authoritative in your space, and then own that city block. So as they're walking down the city block, all they see is good stuff, good stuff, good stuff, good stuff, good stuff, good stuff.
And so to make sure that everybody gets the city block thing, is this microsites? And a microsite, does it have a separate domain from the main site?
Absolutely, 100%. It's not a slash. It's a whole separate domain. It's a whole separate website. It's a whole separate entity. And what it is, online reputation management to build a brand is content creation. So content creation is going to come in the form of blogs, sometimes articles, sometimes journalist interviews. We have a relationship with over 5,000 different publications. You may be getting an interview from a journalist who's going to publish a story about you, right? Third party edification instead of branding versus marketing, microsite, you name it. We do social media as well, but it's content creation, but the content needs to be produced with strategy, purpose, in the right brand tone and voice that supports your overall brand image. And it needs to be done so consistently across all the platforms. And I'll use the final analogy here of the iceberg. We've all seen the iceberg where the tip of the iceberg sticking out, then you got the water, and then you got all this going on below. Content creation and content management is the piece that's sticking out of the water. The special sauce about a good reputation management firm is what's going on underneath the water. That's the SEO, on and off page SEO. That's the backlinking. That's the click-through campaigns. That's the optimization of the new and existing content that's already online to build this spider web effect to where, if you've ever heard all ships raise with a high tide, we're getting the content that we want to raise higher up in Google, because Google's nothing more than a search engine that brings back the most relevant information to the search term that it's provided. Well, we need to convince Google that the content that we're creating is more relevant than what's there. And so we build this spider web effect where I'm getting this to raise, and then it's almost a firewall. So maybe something does negative. We don't want it to ever penetrate that firewall that we've built. So that's the biggest difference of what online reputation management is versus the guy screaming at the top of the building PR.
That's phenomenal. I think it's the best explanation I've ever heard of this matrix of information that needs to be created so that people can experience and encounter you in a bunch of different ways. It's always fascinating for me when I talk to people who are working on their exit and they're like, oh man, yeah, there's nothing out there about me. I'm like, come on, man. Like, where is it? Because they're going to find it and it's going to impact you later. And so we better find something. And if there's not anything out there because you didn't curate it, we better put some stuff out there. And then, of course, on the post exit side, you need a platform because once you sell the business, if you don't have multiple, then much of your identity, your purpose is going to go out the door. And the clarity around the personal brand work will help you step into your next.
Yeah. And we've talked a lot about business brand, right? But people have a personal brand as well. And you need to develop your personal brand just as much as you do your business brand. Like Dave Fulk, if you Google me, I have a personal brand, but I stepped in as the CEO of Reputation Rhino when we acquired it. I'm also the CEO of that company. My personal brand isn't necessarily Reputation Rhino's brand, but they do coexist and they do coincide. And it's articulating that story in the right way. And a couple more points that I want to bring up on the M&A exit where reputation management is due diligence. Every business goes through due diligence. And if they see some bad reviews and some bad stuff online, they don't have a strong impression, they're probably going to scrutinize a little bit deeper and harder in that due diligence time period. And employees, it shows companies that have a bad reputation have to pay 10 to 15% more for employees. So again, if you've got a bad reputation, generally your labor costs are probably going to be higher than your competitors. And if I'm comparing two comparable companies and I see the labor costs of this company are more, that means there's less ability to have profit margin because you're not going to fire everybody and then retire. So there's a lot of intricacies that go into how reputation management and a good, strong online reputation can actually affect your business in multiple ways. And that's even if you're not hiring or not exiting. If you're trying to hire people, if I'm a prospective employer and I can go to option A and they've got a stellar reputation and I'm excited to go work for them and I see all this stuff about them and it's positive, positive, positive. And I've got this other company that's got a 3.2-star rating online on Google. They've got a bad press release on Glassdoor. Everybody says the CEO's a jerk. Who am I going to choose to go work for?
It's there now. They are doing their research before they join a company these days because it's a long term decision and a lot of headache once you undo taking a job offer.